Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of Ode gaming channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I have another older game in my What Is It and Is It Worth It game review series. In this video I will go through the various aspects of the game, trying my best to avoid spoilers for new players and give examples of similar games as well as my personal opinion as to whether I would recommend the game with a thumbs up or thumbs down and if I personally enjoyed it. I won't be giving a number rating to the game as many other channels do, as I find this to be a very arbitrary way of rating games, which like any other entertainment is completely subjective, and instead I prefer to give enough info for you to make a decision on your own if you would like to go forward with picking up this title for yourself. For today's game review, we are looking at Castlevania Lords of Shadow. This action-adventure game was developed by Mercury Stream and Kojima Productions and published by Konami. Lords of Shadow released for consoles on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 back in October of 2010 with a PC release in August of 2013, making the game the oldest that I've done a review for so far at an entire decade. Although released 10 years ago on the Xbox 360, the footage that you're going to see is taken from the Xbox One. So just be aware that the graphics may have a slight improvement over the original, though I do not expect that it's going to be really noticeable and make a significant difference. So what is this game? Essentially it is a story-driven action-adventure, very much an old-school video game, and does lack some of the bells and whistles of the newer games of this genre. One feature I actually really enjoyed, though it does show the age of the title with its arcade feel, is the fact that the game is broken into chapters, which are comprised of different sections. So by having this system, you can start and stop the game, maybe playing a couple sections in a game session, and your progress is literally bookmarked where you left off. This is done as the narrative is essentially a chronicle of the quest undertaken by the main character Gabriel, who you play as during the game. If you're totally unfamiliar with the franchise, you can easily start with this one, as there is no prior knowledge required in order to enjoy this game. Everything is within the story is self-contained, in that you will not feel lost if you haven't played the previous releases within the franchise. Really, the only thing you need to know going in is that the key underlying story is heavily based on supernatural myths, legends, and fictions from the real world, as you'll be facing vampires, trolls, witches, and various other incarnations of undead and supernatural monsters. As for the graphics, they are definitely showing their age now 10 years after release. Although it wasn't a problem for me, this game certainly does not have the cutting-edge look and feel of modern games. It really will feel like a typical last gen in terms of characters and NPC design. I did enjoy the environments, however, and I thought that most of the locations, such as castles, really gave a feeling that the world was quite large, though you are restricted to certain locations within it. This game is very much on the rails, and there is a specific course to take, and although there are a couple sections that are designed to feel like a bit of a maze, for the most part you will be restricted to following a very specific path. This is certainly not an open world or sandbox, as so many of the newer releases tend to be. As you progress through the game, you will receive experience, which you then navigate through your book to purchase and upgrade skills. Should you ever feel that you're lacking the skills needed to continue progression through the story, it is really quite simple to select an earlier stage to gain more experience. Along with your standard experience and skills, you will also find plenty of collectibles along the way. Many of these collectibles have practical applications, as when you collect enough of them, you'll increase your health or specific magic bars, giving an overall increase to these particular attributes. As you make your way through, you will even encounter certain obstacles which will be unable to pass when you first come across them, and are only given the tool to bypass them later in the story. This way, the game essentially forces you to backtrack to earlier stages if you are a completionist type looking for all the collectibles, or if you require some upgrades to continue on. Most of the game is going to be a melee hack and slash against monsters, though you will have some puzzles to pass through. Don't worry too much, as most of the puzzles are really quite simple, and there was only one or two that I found would take a couple of minutes to figure out. Though sometimes puzzles can be further complicated, as you may be facing waves of enemies as you attempt to figure them out. Though again, I found that this was the case only in a handful of times, and really the difficulty did not feel overwhelming. Aside from that, you also have the occasional boss battle, A few of them are really quite tough and may take a few tries for you to push through, though with perseverance they can be defeated. I didn't get any Dark Souls or Lords of the Fallen vibes when fighting boss battles, and most of the bosses feel like their buffs are very fair based on your current progress in the game. In terms of games that I would compare to, it certainly has some God of War elements to it with the combat style and puzzle solving, though a more fitting comparison may be to that of Dante's Inferno, which has often been criticized as a God of War clone. Aside from the obvious hack and slash nature and the puzzles, Dante also shares many story and tonal comparisons with Castlevania, heavily relying on supernatural for story arcs, including the Christian religion as a main plot point in the game. Don't misunderstand though, the religious elements are simply for story, and this game is not a religious game, nor does it attempt to convert or preach to players. So would I recommend this game? Yes, definitely if you go in with the right mindset. It definitely is not a new game, nor is it really comparable to modern games in most ways. The story is fairly good, not groundbreaking, but it is interesting, and the gameplay itself can be slightly repetitive, though this is typical with hack and slash adventure games. If you're looking for a more casual game to play that has a really cool old school last gen feel, this could be a great game for you. Personally, I kept this one up in my rotation while playing other more modern games, as when I just had a shorter length of time to play, maybe a half hour or so, I could start it up and plug through one section within a chapter, and when I was finished, just close out and walk away. It is great as a pick up and go game, as although in some sequences you'll need to remember specific actions in order to pass an obstacle, for the most part you're just going to be smashing through enemies or solving logic puzzles. So I really hope that you enjoyed this review of Castlevania Lords of Shadow. If you did, please consider giving the video a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out and inspires me to continue making content, knowing that there are others out there getting entertainment from my content. I also do have other review videos on the channel, as well as walkthroughs for the game, as well as many others. I'll leave links for those in the description. If you'd like to see me play this game or other games in live stream, check out the link to that as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, take care.